Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burckhardt. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt. Today is June 21st, 2023, and have I got a great show for you. But before we get started with that, I have got to tell you, Murphy has been striking me down hard again. His law just always seems to find a way to mess up my plans. I had actually sat down yesterday and got this interview completely edited, the intro done, the music set. The only thing I had left to do today was I was waiting to do the out comments because I was hoping to get my Into the West Saga serial book 7 Into the West Family Ties finished last night, and I wanted to be able to announce that it was done and getting ready to do the first edit run through. That did not happen, but I do only have one chapter left to write. It's finally getting finished, and I was thinking, okay, I'll sit down, I'll do the outgoing comments today, I'll slap in the closing music and upload the podcast episode, and then I will spend the rest of my day writing. I came onto the computer and something in the system had crashed and I lost everything from today's podcast. So I am just now sitting down and redoing the entire thing again. Hopefully it will go quickly. We will see. And if I can get done soon enough, I do plan on spending the rest of the day writing and finishing that last chapter of Into the West Family Ties so that it can finally get out to all of you who actually do read my books. Because for those of you who are new to the podcast, you may not realize I am also an indie author. I write the Into the West Saga serial as Dianne Burckhardt. It's one of my pen names. And currently there are 6 books available for sale on Amazon under Dianne Burckhardt. There is Into the West, The Orphan Train, Into the West, A New Home, Into the West, Sharon Springs, Into the West, Most Wanted, Into the West, To Save Them All. Ooh, I missed one. Into the West, The Last Showdown. That was number 6. And then number 7 is going to be Into the West, Family Ties, and that will complete the entire saga and bring the whole story around to a close. And I'm really looking forward to finishing this series. It's been a great project. I've loved the characters, but I'm ready to try something new. And I think I had been planning on writing an FBI profiler series next, but next year is the 20th anniversary of all of my brain surgeries. In case you don't know, I have 3 neurological conditions which have caused me to have 6 brain surgeries in 6 months in 2004. And I've spent a lot of time recovering and compensating for that. But next year is the 20th anniversary of all of that. And I have been wanting to write a book about what the experience was going through all of those surgeries in such a short amount of time. I actually died at one point, and the years of recovery and how I went from losing a lot of my language skills to now being an award-winning author. So I think it's an interesting story. My college advisor, Les Anderson, love him. He always said that was the story I should write. So I think I need to get that done. And I would like to have it all done and actually try to get it with a regular publisher, not doing it self-publishing, and get it out in time for the 20th anniversary next year. I would love to have it published in October of 2024 because that was when I had my last surgery. It was when I died and then recovered. And I think it would be the perfect time to have it go out to the public. So we'll see. That's the plan. But enough blathering about everything going on in my life and what's going on with my books. It's time to bring our guest author into the show today. Please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt, the fabulous Donna Edman. Thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners who you are and what you do?
Hi, Dianne. Thanks for having me. My name is Donna Edman, and I am a photographer and a visual storyteller.
How long have you been working as a professional photographer?
I started in 2012. So that's whatever that is.
So what were you doing before that?
I was a social worker.
Oh, wow.
Geriatric care manager. And also in my previous life, I was working in IT as a business systems analyst.
Wow, that is a big career change to go from. Yeah. So what was it that took you from the corporate world into photography?
Yeah, I retired and we gave our daughter a camera for her birthday, and I picked it up and started using it. And finally she said, I'd probably use my camera if it was with me instead of with you, Mom. So this is my new hobby. I always have done something in art, but never valued it, as a profession, which is part of my journey. And it's so wonderful to call myself an artist now, full-fledged artist.
Well, and I was checking out your Yelp reviews today, and apparently a lot of people also think of you as a full-fledged artist. I mean, the reviews, some of the comments are just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to read a couple of these because these are fantastic. One person who sat for you: I have had the pleasure of having Donna as my photographer twice now, and I couldn't recommend her more. She is professional, sweet, and a master at her craft. Another client said, when Donna Edman photographs people, she captures their energy, their passion, their heart.
Mm-hmm.
And another: I worked with Donna on a project involving underprivileged children. Donna was absolutely amazing at capturing moments most photographers wouldn't even see. Mm-hmm. And my absolute favorite: Donna Edman is an expert in her field, and she makes the whole experience as enjoyable as possible. We wanted to photograph our dad, who is one of the last remaining World War II veterans, and create a keepsake memory album that would be a legacy for all of the grandkids. Being in his 90s, Dad was not that willing to set for photos. Donna's way with people helped ease the pain and turn a possible grueling experience into a rich and satisfying day. I mean, come on. Those are amazing. And not only are you doing great photography, you created a legacy keepsake for generations for this family. Yes. I mean, that has to be an incredible feeling.
Yes. Yes. It's a gift. We're all given gifts. As a social worker, I'm comfortable helping people feel comfortable, establishing rapport and helping to get to know them, which is all part of the experience. It's not come in, sit down, and let me take your picture. It's getting to know you so that I can find ways that you're comfortable enough that I can capture who you genuinely are.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely doing that for your clients.
Yeah, it's my intent.
What was it that brought you to the book that you created?
As a social worker, I was a geriatric care manager, and a lot of my clients had dementia. And so my work was to help families understand what that process is and to help families in that time of life. So what I found is that so many people who work with people who have dementia or meet people with dementia, they only see them as they are right now. Mm-hmm. They don't know who this whole person is. So I wanted to tell the stories of elder people, dementia or not. I want to tell stories of elder people so that it is a family legacy.
What is this book?
This book is called Women of Wisdom. And what prompted me to create this particular project was when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, there was a lot of talk about the important legacy that she's leaving. Mm-hmm. And I thought, there are a lot of women in this world who are not famous, who never get to tell their story or have a platform to tell their story. So I wanted to create an opportunity for everyday women to be photographed, have a beautiful portrait photograph of them, and to be able to share their life. It originally just started out as I wanted to photograph these women and give them a gift of a portrait. That was it. And then I had come across a phrase that said, how would you advise your 20-year-old self? I thought, well, that's interesting. So women who are 50 and older, how would they advise their 20-year-old self? Not advise somebody else, mm-hmm. but looking at their life. So we included that. And I had said when I was with them, think about when you go to bed at night, think about who you were when you were 20. What decisions were you making? What was your life like? Who was in your life? What were you wearing? And how would you now advise that 20-year-old self? And it's amazingly inspirational what these women have come up with. And then when the middle of this project, I always chat with people while I'm photographing them. It helps them to feel comfortable. We're just chatting and I'm clicking while we're chatting. And their stories were so interesting. And in the middle of the project, I went back and asked the people I'd already photographed to tell their story, a peek into their personal story that could be public. And I thought it might be quite censored, because it was going to be for the public. And it was not. It was amazing what these women were able to feel comfortable telling and about their personal story. So the book ended up being their portrait, advice to their 20-year-old self, and a peek into their personal story. There were 49 women who participated, all 50 to 96.
And these photographs are just absolutely amazing. Personality comes through in these photos.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that was the goal. And I think we do that because it's not stand in front of the camera and smile. I always say when we're together, it's not about that. So, and sometimes we start with that because that's what people are expecting. But, sometimes I'm having them spin and jump and talk and have a table in front of them, not have a table in front of them. The people in general are not comfortable in front of the camera. Some are, most aren't. So it's like, how can I help you be comfortable in front of the camera? In fact, one of the ladies I had met a while back, and I saw her at a local retail store, and she was dressed so uniquely in this bohemian kind of outfit. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would love to photograph this woman. And then I was the creepy person following her around the store till I had the nerve to ask her, I'm a photographer. May I take your picture? She said yes. She brought her sister with her. And she could not relax. And I pulled all the tools I had in my toolbox. How can I help this person relax? And finally I said, what kind of music do you like? And she was a worship leader in her church. And as soon as I put on music that was meaningful to her, I said, don't look at me anymore. Just be in the moment. That was the thing for her. And so ever since then, I have music as part of the environment, as I'm photographing, because it does make people feel more comfortable if they're listening to something that they connect with. She came in again for this book. And when she came in this time, she comes in the door, she bounces in and she says, where's the music? I'm ready to go.
That's great. So how did you actually choose the women for this project?
Well, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I didn't know how to do anything but the portraits. So I didn't know how to make this a book. I didn't know how to get this into a gallery, into museums. So I just felt stuck. And my friend said, it's been 2 years. Invite 2 people this week and photograph them. Just start there. So I invited 2 people that I knew, and they invited people, and I ended up with 49. It just sort of evolved.
That's amazing.
I had the goal that I wanted everyday women. I didn't want to photograph famous women. So I wanted to photograph everyday women and a broad spectrum of socioeconomic communities, just a variety of women. And I wanted them to be everyday women.
Well, and whenever you go through and you look, there's such a wide range of personalities and just the way that they react with the camera. I mean, some of them look like they're a little bit shy. Some of them look like they're loving it. And I mean, all of them, you can just see their personality. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Some of them took 30 minutes and some of them took 2 hours. It just depended on how long it took for them to be comfortable, to be who they were with a camera in front of them.
Whenever you were going through this, do you think that it was easier to connect with the women who were on the lower age spectrum or the higher age spectrum, or did it have nothing to do with age and just more individual?
Had nothing to do with age. I felt honored to be able to meet these women and to hear their stories and hear their advice. So I just thought every one of them was so interesting and interesting in different ways. There were trends, but, interesting in different ways. So I enjoyed them all.
How is this connected to the museum exhibit?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome since I didn't know how to do any of this. So the museum director of a local museum found the book. I had photographed her for something else. She bought the book. She bought the book for a friend, and the friend was on the museum board, and they both said, hey, we should do something with this. And I said, yes, we should. So that's how it came about.
What are people going to see if they come into this exhibit?
Oh, it's wonderful. I have the main gallery of the museum. They'll see portraits of all 49 women. They'll see excerpts from their writing. There's 16 of them that have QR codes next to the portrait. And when you activate those QR codes, you'll be able to hear the women's voices read from the book.
Oh, that's amazing.
The whole purpose of this was to give women a voice and a platform to share it. And this is perfect. It's perfect because you can hear their voice as you're looking at their portrait.
That is amazing.
And then some of them brought artifacts. When I photograph people, I like to ask them to bring things that are important to them. So some of the women did bring things. And so some of those things are now part of the exhibit as well.
Oh, wow. Now, where is this museum exhibit?
The museum exhibit is the Fullerton Museum Center. It's in Fullerton, California, Southern California.
And how long is that exhibit going to run? Do you know?
It runs now through August 6th.
So there's plenty of time for people to go find this exhibit.
Yes, yes. I'm a big sister, kind of a big grandma in the Big Sister, Big Brother program. And my little wanted to go and look at the exhibit. And she had so much fun looking at the portraits and then matching the artifacts with the pictures, with the women with those artifacts. She was walking around and she was just so excited. Her eyes were big and she was so excited to see all this. And then she'd ask about certain ones. And her particular thing was to ask about the ones that had fashion that she was attracted to. Isn't that cool? And she's 8. She's 8 years old. And then there's women who are bringing in women's groups. There's just all kinds of ways you can go and experience this. There's also a docent that'll give a guided tour. If I'm not there, I know you're coming, I'll be there for you. But if I'm not there, then there's a docent who gives a guided tour.
Well, and I think especially for young women, it's important for them to see older women being celebrated this way, because so often once you get past 50, people think you're done.
Yes.
That you have nothing left to offer.
Yes. Especially when you're 20. Age seems so far away. The closer you get to 50, the younger you feel,
That's one thing that I was always really surprised about. Whenever I got to be 30, I kept waiting to feel like I was old. When I was 40, I kept waiting to feel like I was old. Now I'm in my 50s and it's like, I still don't feel like I'm old.
See?
My knees feel like they're old, but the rest of me is fine.
Well, the audience for this project originally was for the peers of these women. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would be interesting for people who were over 50 to see their peers and what they were doing and what they had to say, right? Mm-hmm. And as it developed, I realized it's for women of all ages, because I had a wonderful mom who guided me and helped me be who I am today, but not everybody has that. So it's also for women who may not have had an older woman in her life that can help guide her and share wisdom with her. So it's for women of all ages, and it's been attractive to women of all ages. There's a woman, she's probably in her 50s, had told me that she is mentoring a woman in her 20s who had a very difficult childhood, a traumatic childhood. And so as part of her mentoring process, she has the book and asks her mentee if she would read 1 or 2 stories of the women before they meet, and then can discuss that. That's kind of a platform of what they were doing and how they were using the book. And when she asked her, did you read 1 or 2? She says, no, I had to read them all. They were just so interesting.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Isn't that cool? Oh my gosh.
Now, I was trying to see in here, do you have advice to your 20-year-old self in this book?
I don't have it in the book, and that would have been something that would have been a good thing to enter into the book. But I was asked that for the museum exhibit. So I have thought about that a little bit.
So what is your advice to your 20-year-old self?
I come from a perfectionist mindset. My father, a great guy, I had this mantra that I had carried with me most of my life that says, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. And I think he meant just do your best.
Mm-hmm.
But I took that to be as a perfectionist frame of mind. So during this process, because I didn't know what I was doing, except I can do portraits,
Mm-hmm.
know what I was doing, I didn't get started. I couldn't get started. And my friend said, well, ask people for help. And so an advice to my 20-year-old self is perfection's not the goal.
Yeah.
Ask people for help and just start and ask for help.
That's great advice for anybody at any age.
Yeah. And if it doesn't turn out, like with my little sister, she was trying to design clothes for her doll and we made them and it didn't fit right. And she said, oh, this is no good. I failed at this. And I said, oh, no. Just when things don't turn out the way you expect it, it might turn out even better. And she said, yes, that's true. Because look how we modified this to make this even better than I expected. So I think if we have that kind of mindset instead of perfectionist mindset, that whatever turns out could even be better, it's just a journey. It doesn't have to have a perfect ending.
That's one of those things that I always try to remind myself that it's about the experience in life, not the goals, not the perfection, but just experiencing as much as you can.
Yeah. And it's okay to not have it end up the way you expected. So that was my big learning thing. So that would be my advice to myself. And just figure out who you are and embrace who you are. Because I was always creative, but again, I didn't value art for myself as a career. I was always creative in what I did business-wise, but art for art's sake wasn't something that I valued for me. And I would say find your passion and figure out how to make it happen.
I think you have definitely made it happen for you because this book is fantastic.
Thank you. I hope that it's an inspiration. My goal is to honor the women who are there and to share them with others. But I'm hoping that the people that experience this book, that they're inspired and they're inspired to think, what is my wisdom, and be able to share their wisdom.
And that is a perfect segue for me to ask you about this free offer that you have for an inspiration guide on your website.
Yeah. If people want to come and pick that up, that is free. And it's an opportunity to see how you can use your portraits, your family portraits, and things that are important to you as part of your legacy. Whether it's wall decor or it's in a book form, it's sharing your life. So there's some ideas on how you can do that.
That's one of those things I have always my entire life just driven people crazy with taking photos. I remember having like the little 110 camera with the little square flash bulb thing on top when I was a child, and then moving up to like 35 millimeter and then now digital, and with good cameras on phones anymore, as long as you've got your phone, you can take pictures. Right. And I always have a camera with me somehow, either my 35 millimeter or my phone or something. And whenever we go on vacation, I will be taking pictures of doorknobs and wrought iron fences. And my husband's, why are you taking a picture of that light bulb? I mean, because it's cool. Look at it.
Oh, we're on the same. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there. I have a great story, and maybe this is just a learning experience through life, but I always thought people saw the world the same way. Right. So I see things in detail like you do, Dianne. Like I'll be taking a picture of the doorknob and the fence, right, and the light bulb. And so one of my daughters and I, we were walking in a park, and I said, hang on a second, I want to take a picture. And she looked at me and she said, what did you take a picture of? And I said, well, stand next to me and tell me what you see. And she said, well, I see the big expanse of the park. So she saw the shape of the trees and the positioning of the trees and, the landmarks around the park. She saw the big picture. And what I saw was the reflection of a crane's legs in the water. And I didn't even photograph the whole crane, right? It was just the legs, the little bit of the body of the legs in that ripple. And she didn't see the bird. So then I thought, oh my gosh, people see things so differently. And when we photograph, I think that what we see and photograph will be lost if we don't photograph it. Right? So I encourage people to take photographs. I would encourage you to do the same thing, Dianne. Is on my Facebook page, I have a daily dose of beauty.
Mhm.
And I started this at the beginning of COVID because there was so much unbeauty during that time. So I wanted to balance that out with having people intentionally look for things that are beautiful. And so I have a prompt today. And for every day since March of 2020, I've posted a photograph and said, share your photo with this prompt.
Oh, nice.
And so it's just a way of people communicating with each other. And it's fun to see people commenting on each other's that don't know each other. It's a great community builder of people who just want to see things that are beautiful.
That's a fantastic project to do.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I think people need those little things daily just to get out of the grind.
Yes.
Because it seems like since COVID, people are so weighted down with emotion and stress and trying to get back to normal. And doing things like this to just bring a little bit of beauty and creativity into people's lives daily is amazing and so needed.
Well, there's been a good response. So I think people, if there was no response, I wouldn't do it. So I think people are drawn to having something intentional, an intentional way of going out and looking for things that are good, right?
Okay, now this is the part of the show that we do 5 quick questions that are never quick.
No.
But I am determined to still keep trying this.
Okay, well, let's see how we do.
Okay. Question 1. What was the first camera that you ever owned?
It was a little Nikon. I think it was called a Pen or a J1. And that was the one that we had given to our daughter. It was a mirrorless with multiple lenses, digital.
Question 2. Which do you prefer, actual film or digital?
I've never photographed a film. So my answer is digital.
Question 3. Do you ever do your own darkroom kind of work on your computer? Or do you have somebody else who does it?
I do it myself. If I get really behind, I have people that can do first level edits. Editing for me, it gives me the feeling of coloring in a coloring book on the floor when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So photographing people is really important. I enjoy that a lot, but editing, I enjoy just as much. So to give that up would be like giving half of the enjoyment away. So I only take enough clients so that hopefully I can balance that I can do my own editing. And I think because my interest is authentic portraits, I do less of that for my clients. I also compete as a photographer, the Professional Photographers of America. And in my competition photos, I do more of the artwork. So doing both. I'm doing both. Yeah. Use different applications for different things.
Well, and from looking at the pictures in your book, I could tell that you don't do a lot of extra additives. I mean, you're going for the natural, authentic people. The portraits are just so natural and the lighting is perfect. I would love to see your lighting setup because it's amazing.
Thank you. When I first started creating photos, somebody asked me, can you do a headshot for me? I go, well, I'll try. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I didn't charge her. And then I started charging $40. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should go to school and figure this out. So I went to photography school for 2 years just to study portraiture and lighting. And then after that is when I actually started my business. So lighting is really important. For this book, the deal was anybody could participate who's 50 or older, but they had to be okay with their portraits being public without any retouching. So there's no retouching on those at all. And it's because I think these women are beautiful just as they are. They have gnarled knuckles. They have wrinkled skin. They have extra pounds that they wish they wouldn't have. And all that doesn't matter at all. These are beautiful women just as they are. I try to help people who say, oh, I'll have my portraits created once I lose weight. Mm-hmm. And it's like, people love you just as you are. You don't have to present yourself in front of a photographer. The lighting helps. It helps to know how to do good lighting to bring out your features. And then it's just being comfortable. So, yeah. And for my clients' work, I always retouch my work that goes out in public, except this particular book. But I'm very light in retouching. And I always ask them, do you want more or less? People come to me and say, can you make me look 20? They kind of do it jokingly, but not jokingly. Right? Yeah. And I'll say, well, do you want your clients to recognize you when they see you in person?
Exactly.
So I think a little bit of retouching is appropriate. It's okay. But I try to make you look your best. But I think you look beautiful just as you are, or handsome.
And it's so important to show people as normal age. I mean, because the world is so filled with this expectation that you should look like you're 20 when you're 60 years old. And that's not normal.
Right.
People get jowls, they get wrinkles, they get pot bellies. It's normal.
But with the photography side of that, the portrait side of that is it's how you are positioned in relation to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lighting that can make you look your best as you actually are. Right?
Yeah.
If you have a pot belly, you're not going to do a side view.
Yeah.
Right? You do a front view. Right. It's the little tips. If you have the jowls, you're going to just move your face toward the camera a little more. You're going to get a jawline. When you're facing your face directly to the camera, bring your whole face forward. So it's how you position, all those things help with a natural look, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's posing and it's the lighting that I think makes you look your best.
Unfortunately, all of my photos that I have in my publicity and everything, it's all selfies because I don't have somebody to take photos for me here. So these are all photos that I've taken of myself.
Well, you did an excellent job with all your photography experience.
Oh, well, thank you. There are some of them, though. I wish I had a longer arm or had somebody else to take the picture.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which question were we on?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. Question 4. I know.
Okay.
Question 4. What is the most memorable photo shoot you have done?
Well, I think this project is the most memorable. Within this project, I loved being with all of these women, and they were all fantastic women. But there's a few that I think I'm especially drawn to, and where I think they're their most authentic portrait. So there's particular ones that I especially like of the women that participated in this project.
And what is it whenever you're doing something like this that usually stands out to you, that makes it a favorite experience for you?
It's when my clients are comfortable. My biggest joy in creating portraits is for my clients to feel comfortable, that they can feel natural, and that I'm clicking as they're feeling natural. When those portraits happen, that's like the biggest joy for me.
So question 5.
Yes.
If you were not doing photography, what would you be doing with your retirement?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would be active in my community more than I am now. I'm really active in my community now, but even more so, I would be doing things on boards of organizations that do good for others. I am especially interested in kids and influencing and motivating kids to be their best. So it probably would be something around organizations supporting kids.
So is there anything that you would like the listeners to know that we have not covered today?
I think if they're in Southern California and they would like to have portraits created, I'd like for them to know to go to my website and see some samples and reach out. There's a contact me on my website that they can reach out. I'd be so delighted to continue to create more and more portraits, and portraits of people that just want to have authentic portraits. I know one thing, Dianne, my next project, which I'm in the process of doing now, is called the Legacy Project. And it's an expanse of this one. So in the Legacy Project, I'm photographing elders, the people who are local, also photographing old photographs with them and photographing things that are important to them, their treasures.
Oh,
and
wow.
then each person will be a chapter in the next book, maybe it be expanded more than this one. And the families will provide the narrative for each of those photos. This came about because I have things that are really important to me that were my parents, but they're important to me with no story, right? No story that's been shared. So I think we all have things that are important to us, people who are important to us, old photos that are important to us, that if we can make a legacy of that for each family, that's my project that I'm working on right now. I have a whole album of pictures that are from my mom's family. I don't know who they are. So I have an entire album. So it's identify for the families to identify who these people are and how they relate to one another and how things that are important to this elder now can carry that story on for generations.
That's amazing, because I know so many people do lose that history because
Right.
once the person is gone who had all of that stuff, you don't have that connection anymore. And if they didn't leave any information, if there's nothing written on the back of those photos,
Right.
there's no information.
And I think we don't think about asking. We don't think about interviewing our own family, right? So if I can do that for them and give them prompts that they can write what's important to this elder, it's a way to keep their legacy going. Just like you read a review from one of the people that I had done many years ago, a World War II veteran. In the project, each elder will be a chapter in my new book, but it's also the families can purchase that book on their own.
Mm-hmm.
What this family did in his book, we did all kinds of pictures that are of things that are important to this man and that told his story. And then the family wrote how his parents met and, did the whole story of their life. So that was included as well. So as much as people want to write, I'm not the great writer myself. I'm more a photographer than a writer. And I think people write as they speak. And that's just part of leaving that legacy.
That is an amazing project. I'm going to look forward for you to finish that one. That will be incredible to see.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's going to be as incredible as this one. In the Women of Wisdom project, I had my idea of how I was going to format the page, right? So I was going to have a portrait on one side and their advice and their story on the other side, and then flip the page and it's the next person. Mm-hmm. And some people wrote a little and some people wrote a lot. So I thought, well, I better edit this down. And I thought, why am I editing their words, right? Why am I changing grammar to what I think grammar should be? Is how they speak. So if I'm giving them a voice, it's a voice for them to say as much as they want in whatever way that they want.
Yeah.
So it's the same for this next project.
And plus, I think that the words that people use, it speaks so much to their upbringing, the part of the country that they came from, their level of education. I mean, that carries so much information in and of itself.
Exactly. And who am I to edit that, right? So, yeah, exactly.
Makes
part of the whole legacy thing, whoever does this writing or the group of people who do the writing, that's part of the story.
Yeah. And that just gives it so much more authenticity too.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, all of your information for people who want to find the museum exhibit and your website to possibly book a photo session with you will be in the description of today's podcast. And it will also stay live on my website at burckhartbooks.com for as long as we're doing this podcast. So people will be able to find you at any point in the future.
Oh, that's wonderful, Dianne.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So there you have it, my happy people, my interview with photographer, visual storyteller, Donna Edman. Please go check out her work. It is amazing. The photographs that she has right now for her vintage photo shoots on her website are just gorgeous. You will be so impressed. Trust me on this. So just to kind of let you know what's going on here, it is now about 6 p.m. in Germany where I live, and I'm just now finishing up the edits for this podcast. Hopefully, with a little help from my husband who has volunteered to make dinner tonight so I don't have to do that, I will get to finish the last chapter of Into the West Family Ties tonight. If I have to stay up all night to get it done, I am determined it will be done. So be sure to check back next week because I will have an update on how that is going. And you can also check out my Friday Funnies blog because if I have it all done, when I have it all done before this Friday's blog, I will be sure to mention it in there too. So just go to burckhartbooks.com and you can find a link in the description of this podcast and check out our blog this Friday and see what's going on with my books. Now, coming up in the next few weeks, we have some more amazing guests for you. Starting next week on the 28th, we have Wendy Jo Cerna. She is an inspirational author, and her ideas that she has for her books are just so interesting. And she shares with us where she got her inspiration for these stories. You do not want to miss this podcast. Following Wendy Jo, we have Sabrina Hammonds. She is the owner of Kingdom Connections, podcast and media agency. If you are an author or any other business person who needs to improve your social media reach and you want to get booked on podcasts, she can help you with that. After Sabrina, we have Ann Charles. She describes her work as mixed genre mysteries, full of mystery, mayhem, comedy, spice, and whatever else feels right. If that doesn't make you curious about her work, I don't know what would. So what are you waiting for, people? Go subscribe right now to Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt Because if you love books like we do, you do not want to miss this podcast.